we would put this child, and when you put a little 3-year-old in the bathtub, they are slippery little critters, I'm telling you. You put her in the bathtub and you turn around for a second, she'd be out running around going, Nikki butt, Nikki butt. No, honey, please. This would go on time and time again. One time I was getting ready to go away at a conference for a few days. So I went to change my answering machine. Mackenzie was in, taking a bath. Kelsey was in, doing her homework, quiet in the house. I pushed a little button and I said, "Hi, this is Bob. I'm unavailable right now. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can." That was the end of the message. Now, do you find anything funny about that message? Neither did I. I left, I got back, and there was 2 messages on my recorder, so I hit play, and I heard this. Actually, I heard a sound that some of you girls probably know better than the guys. How many of you have stayed over, had a sleepover at a girlfriend's house, and you've stayed up until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and you get laughing so hard that you cannot breathe? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you try to laugh, but all that comes out is, you know what I'm talking about? I hear on my answering machine. So I am listening and he goes, like, what is he talking about? So I hit stop and I listened to the message that I put on, and it was a little different than I thought. It said, "Hi, this is Bob. I'm unavailable right now." And in my wife's voice, as loud as can be, I hear her yell, "Put your clothes on!" Now that is parental brain damage. Mackenzie was so wild. She caused so much damage during those years, but none worse than what would happen on Sundays at church. How many of you around the house would say Sunday mornings are a little more stressful than any other day of the week? Anybody? Around our house, they are. Because my wife, who is the sweetest woman ever, becomes demon-possessed on Sundays, and dads do the same. My wife walks around the house like this Sunday mornings. "Get your shoes on! Get your coat on!" Every now and then she even yells at the children. It's a scary thing around our house. I always tell the young moms at church with 2 and 3-year-old kids, they're the ones that their hair is still wet, stuck to their head, and they walk into church and they look exhausted. And this is my wife and I when we would get to church every Sunday when Mackenzie was 3. Mackenzie would go into church and it would be a little different story. She would walk in and she would go like this. Do you know what that means? It means, "Let the games begin." For Mackenzie was fun because as a church we put really cool things in there, right? We have those padded seats, and we have those bars that are right over those seat fronts in front of us, and then those things that are right down there. What do you call those? Kneelers. Very good. Not when you're 3 years old though, and you live in Iowa. Mackenzie calls them her pony. Okay? And she would get on her pony and she'd be going, "Yeah! No, not during the homily, come on!" It was one day in church, it was the worst. Mackenzie was all over. And I sat Mackenzie down next to me and I said, "Look, honey, Daddy's tired. Look up there. They're getting ready to put Jesus in the tabernacle. The Eucharistic ministers were just finishing up and they were getting ready to put the Eucharist in the tabernacle." And she said, "Oh, Daddy?" I said, "Well, Mackenzie, what's a tabernacle?" I said, "A tabernacle is that gold box. They're going to put Jesus in that gold box." And she said, "Oh, Daddy?" "Yes, Mackenzie." "They're going to put Jesus in a box?" "Yes, he might." She said, "Oh." Now, I know you're thinking that's not great theology. Some of the adults are going, "Whoa." But she was 3 years old. Give me a break. So, it worked. She sat there and I'm like, looked over at my wife and said, "I did that." Father sat down. We had our moment of silence after communion. I took my eye off of Mackenzie just for a moment. And the next thing I knew, she had hopped up on top of her pony and was screaming to the top of her lungs, "Don't worry, Jesus! I'll get you out of there!" Everybody in church say, "Hi, Caroline." Did you know that this is a symbol called ictus, okay? And it's an ancient symbol, way, way back in the early church. Believe it or not, people were persecuted, were killed for being Christians. Can you believe that? So they had this little symbol so they would know that they were that you are a Christian, okay? Now, I need you to hold this for me. You can sing a song if you want. Come on, who all wants to hear Caroline sing a song? I'm teasing, I wouldn't do that to you, Caroline. Now, raise your right hand. I, Caroline, promise to wear this silly hat the whole day, exactly like Bob put it on my head. I won't be turning it sideways. Okay. There you go. Now, you ain't done, because now this is a symbol of being a Christian. Now I want to know, what happens when you turn this way? What do you see? You see the fish. What happens when you turn this way, Caroline? What do you see?
A fish.
And what about this way? Oh, there you go. See, because no matter which way you turn, no matter where you go, you got to be a Christian 24/7, and that takes a lot of courage. So our first C was, and our second C is, give me that t-shirt on. And before I could stop him, he walked up to the bishop of our diocese, said, "Dude, you're the bishop." "Yes, I am." "My name's JJ. Dude, nice to meet you." And I'm like, "Oh, JJ." And before I could say a word to the bishop or JJ, he looked at the bishop and he said, "Dude, I'm just wondering, have you ever read the Bible?" Was really, really cool about it. He said, "Yes, JJ, I have read the Bible." "Dude, what's your favorite scripture reading?" Bishop said, "Well, JJ, I have a lot of them. I like the story of the prodigal son." And he started naming off a few of them, and JJ stopped and finally said, "Dude, I have some Bible favorites too. But my favorite, do you know this sheep? There's 100 of them. And that shepherd dude, you know that one?" "Yeah, I've read that." "Yeah, there was all those sheep, and there was one that took off, and the shepherd dude went after him. That was crazy, wasn't it, Bishop?" Bishop said, "Yeah, JJ, he said, that was a really cool story." JJ looked at the bishop. His eyes filled up with tears. And he said, "Bishop, I love that Bible reading because, well, dude, I am that sheep." I had never seen a bishop cry till that moment. The bishop bawled with JJ as they cried and embraced him. And it was one of the most spiritual moments I'd ever had because the bishop knew what JJ meant. He was about as lost as a person could be. He was about as messed up as you could get. And God transformed his life and changed JJ into somebody else. That took a lot of courage for JJ. But God promises when we turn to him, he's going to be there.